Staves in Skyrim are not very good. They have some uses, mostly as emergency sources of damage for low-level mages, but beyond that, they're pretty awful. They're not very flexible. Ironic, since they're wooden sticks. But playing through Skyrim with garbage weapons sounds like content, so that's why we're here. Surprisingly, what I thought would be the greatest obstacle for this run, charging the staves, ended up being trivial. The real problem? Well, we'll get to that. I'm going into this with the basic idea that if something can be accomplished with a staff, it must be accomplished with a staff. Can you fight things with staves? Yes, so all combat must be done with staves. Can you make potions with staves? No, so we can just make potions normally. That said, there are a lot of spells that don't exist on any staff in the game, such as fast healing or stoneflesh. But casting those spells, because they don't exist on a staff, doesn't feel in the spirit of things, so pretty much all magic is forbidden, unless it's in a staff. Does alchemy count as magic? It's thief-aligned in Skyrim, so no. The first question we have to ask, where do we get a staff? Do we go to Solitude and get the Wabbajack? It wouldn't require any combat, and it can do some mean damage to enemies, but it's unpredictable. Too unpredictable. And since we have no reliable way of recharging it, once it's out of juice, we're stuck. There is a Staff of Soul Trap, but like most things in Skyrim, it appears randomly. And even if we lucked out and found a couple good staves in a merchant shop, we'd still need gold to buy it. But I have a plan. Real estate. Real estate and pharmaceuticals. Not the restoration loop, by the way. Just laying it out there right now, we're not using that. That would be boring. Our freelance pharmaceutical operation will merely be funding our adventure. Paying our staff, if you will. Our primary goal right now is to get enough money so we can buy ourselves a home. Put down that avocado toast and grab them bootstraps. We've got unreasonable expectations to place upon the future generations.
Honest pay for honest work.
Whiterun has a lot of flowers lying about, all good for making a random assortment of potions. Right now, none of what we make is worth that much, but it's just enough to turn a meager profit, even when buying ingredients directly from Arcadia. The issue is, she doesn't carry a lot of supply. Even if we exploit the restocking glitch, when you save the game, punch the merchant, then load the save, resetting their inventory without having to wait 48 hours, it's still not that fast. A better thing to do would be to just scavenge materials. One of the more reliable potion recipes I've found is blue mountain flowers and wheat. They make a combo fortify health and restore health potion, and they sell reasonably well considering how cheap and abundant the ingredients are. Whiterun is covered in flowers, and wheat is easily harvested from farms. The wheat is our limiting reagent, however, and it does take a bit of time to regrow. But every potion we make is one potion closer to getting our alchemy engine up and running. This is a repetitive process and not super engaging, but it is progressing the build in more ways than one. We're getting levels in both alchemy and speechcraft, which means we're getting character levels, which means we're getting more health. One benefit of using only staves is that we don't need to allocate any points into magicka or stamina. The former is useless, and the latter only grants a bit more carry capacity. And since no perks actually benefit staves, using our perk points for non-combat unlocks isn't going to hinder us much. It doesn't feel wasted. By putting our first perk point into Alchemist, our potions will be valued higher, meaning more XP and more money. We've been focusing so much on building up to our house, we never considered how we would decorate. Maybe we can get some help from today's sponsor, Displate. From the moment I understood the weakness of paper posters, it disappointed me. I craved the strength and certainty of premium metal posters. With over 2 million designs from licensed properties and independent artists, there's something for everyone. You may be worried about how involved the mounting system must be for a plate made out of solid metal, but it's actually even simpler than hanging a framed picture. Clean the surface, place the protective leaf onto the surface, affix the included magnet onto the leaf, and press down hard. And that's it. Place your disc plate onto the magnet and enjoy. And because the mount is separate from the poster, you can switch them out whenever you want. Disc plates make for a great gift, especially for those loved ones who are always difficult to buy for. You know the ones. And with the holidays approaching, Displate is celebrating Black Friday with their best deal yet. You can get up to 46% off by using the link in the description or by using the promo code JBN. Thanks again to Displate for sponsoring this video. Alchemy is great and all, but it never hurts to do a bit of honest theft. The shops around Whiterun have a couple hundred gold lying around in their lockboxes, and it's not like they're ever going to use it. Oh, good, a broom.
One of the companions, I'm sure.
Oh, another broom. We need that.
No lollygagging.
I need this broom.
Let me guess. Someone stole your sweet roll.
Before I forget, you may be wondering why we went with Nord for this run. Well, Starting skill bonuses don't matter for Staves, and greater powers are situational at best. But what Nords have is frost resistance. The most annoying thing in this game is Draugr putting their hands in your face and blasting you with ice. It pisses me off so much. This won't prevent that, but it'll be less likely to kill us.
This'll teach you not to take things that don't belong to you. Is someone there?
Wait, what?
Never should have come here.
Nobody saw me steal anything. Guard, help. I'm being attacked.
Sure have mercy on you.
Really, dude?
Cause trouble in Whiterun and I'll haul you into the Dragon's Reach dungeon myself.
Ah, corruption. Of course. Guess we're leaving Whiterun then. There's a surprising amount of ingredients out in the wilds. Who'da thunk? Oh hey, it's Cicero. We can get some easy gold from this quest, actually. His cart is broken, and he needs help repairing it, but the nearby farmstead turned him away. Can't imagine why. Cicero is a bit of an oddball, but by saying come on to the farmers, they relent and agree to help out old Cicero. For our trouble, Cicero gives us 250 gold. It's probably scaled based on your level, but that's 5% of our goal, so I'm more than happy with that ROI. Considering we didn't invest anything, it's an infinite ROI. Did you know Cicero means chickpea in Latin? Alchemy's never been a thing I focused on in Skyrim, honestly. I always just used found potions, and I scarcely bothered with poisons because they're kinda clunky. You gotta reapply them, and if you miss with the arrow, then it's just a wasted poison. You might as well skip it all and just one-shot everybody with a bow. Another thing I never spent much time on is fishing, but for different reasons. Fishing was originally one of those creation club things, and it wasn't added to the special edition until sometime after my several hundreds of hours I spent in Skyrim. So by the time it was released, I was kind of already done with Skyrim for the most part. It wasn't in the forefront of my interests at the time. But what I've discovered now is that we could fish up river betties in, you better sit down for this, rivers. And we can use them with death bells to make really valuable poisons. For whatever reason, river betties have a 2.5 times magnitude multiplier for damage health poisons. Death bells are available in droves outside of Morthal, around the Apprentice Stone, and river betties are fished up not far from the Guardian Stones. There's a really chatty fisherman here though. He keeps rattling off his idle banter, and he's scaring away the fish. I typically never use console commands in my challenges, even though I very easily could, and you'd never know. But sometimes I make exceptions for game-breaking bugs or annoying NPCs that serve no purpose.
I've been hunting and
River Betty and Death Bell together create a poison that both slows and damages the target. More importantly, it's worth 401 gold. With everything made and sold, we're sitting at a comfortable 6,000 gold. It's time to buy a house. We want that nice piece of land outside of Falkreath, because the quest we have to do to get it is the easiest. First, we grab the Jarl a bottle of Blackbriar mead, and then get sent to deal with a bandit leader in the Bile Gulch mine. This will be our first taste of staff combat, but we still don't have a staff. Why do you think I got 6,000 gold instead of just 5,000? The little extra should be more than enough to buy a single staff from Feralda in Winterhold. Feralda is the only college merchant we have access to without actually joining the college. We can't join the college in this run either. You have to demonstrate your skill by casting a spell in front of Feralda, or pass a skill check that requires something like 90 speechcraft. Staves don't count for this, so even if we had the appropriate staff, she wouldn't accept it as a successful spellcast, which makes sense, to be fair. That doesn't mean we can't enter the college, though. But how do you get through the gate if you don't have the key that Feralda gives you? More on that later. For now, we buy a Staff of Sparks for a paltry 632 septims and return to the mine. To my surprise, the bandits outside the mine don't chase us into the mine, and the bandit chief is the only NPC within the mine, making this quest pretty easy. So channeled spells like Sparks, Flames, and Frostbite consume magicka, or charge in the case of Staves, at a fixed rate. For spells, the magicka per second is modified by your level, your gear, and what perks you've unlocked. For Staves, the rate is static. You can channel Sparks from a Staff of Sparks for 35 seconds before it's out of juice. However, you don't need to channel the spell for a whole second to do 1 second's worth of damage. Let me explain. The staff does 8 points of health and magicka damage per second, but if you give your enemy a quick jolt and then stop channeling, they'll still take the full 8 points of damage without you having to channel for the entire duration. This conserves the charge on the staff. It works better with flames because the flame spell has a damage over time effect, and so it does more damage overall. Of course, I'm not doing it correctly. I'm casting too quickly, so I'm overriding the damage with another application of the damage, clipping the damage. But the result is similar. We kill the bandit chief without expending much of any charge at all. See the gray bar under our health bar? That's the amount of charge left on the staff. Pretty much full. The chief had a bit under 160 health, so if we laid into the spell instead, we would have used up 20 of the staff's 35 seconds worth of charge, more than half. You can see how efficient spell flicking is. We'll run away from the rest of the bandits, there's no reason to waste their time. With his favor done, the Jarl of Falkreath grants us permission to purchase property in his hold for a clean 5,000 septims. When we arrive at the lot, we see it's empty. Yeah, the land cost 5,000 septims. What we do on the land, well, that's our responsibility. Building a house in Skyrim is pretty simple though, and is likely a proto-version of the settlement system we saw in Fallout 4, and then again in Starfield. Don't be shocked if it returns in Test 6. To be fair though, it did seem to improve with each incarnation, so it shouldn't be too bad. If Test 6 is in Hammerfell, I hope our settlements will be remote islands in the Iliac Bay. Wouldn't that be fun? I want to be a pirate. Have a little pirate base out in the ocean where I can hide my booty. Getting all the materials to build our home is more busy work than anything else. We need nails, iron fittings, hinges, and locks, all of which are just crafted at a forge. We need stone and clay, which you collect from the infinite resource deposits within your newly purchased land. And finally, sawn logs. Those can be a bit more of a problem. It costs 200 gold for 20 sawn logs, but if you befriend one of the sawmill owners, they'll let you cut the logs yourself, and they'll deliver them free of charge. How do you befriend a sawmill operator? Chop some firewood in Riverwood, and sell it to Hod. Now he's your friend, and will supply you with free timber and free delivery services. Quite business savvy. With the right materials, all you do is draft the design on the drafting table, and then build it by smacking the carpentry table with a hammer. And carpenters think they need a guild, this is easy. The whole purpose of building this house, if you hadn't pieced it together yet, is for the garden and the greenhouse. The garden has 11 patches you can plant any alchemical plant/fungus in, and they'll regrow after about 2 days. The greenhouse is much the same, but you can plant up to 18 plants, assuming you build the 3 grow beds and the 6 planters. And not only do these crops replenish faster than wild plants, but you harvest more from them, around 3 to 5 helpings per crop. What we'll be growing for cash is Scaly Foliota, Mora Tapanella, and Creep Cluster. These mix into potions of Fortify Carry Weight, but they come with several other effects as well. Stamina regeneration, illusion fortification, magical weakness, magic restoration, none of it matters. What's important is that they're valuable. So valuable that there aren't really any merchants with enough gold to buy a single one. I have a solution for that. At 50 Speechcraft, we can unlock the Merchant perk. Sell any type of item to any kind of merchant. Imagine we buy a bunch of staves and soul gems from a wizard and recoup the costs with useless but expensive potions. Now I know this is pretty ludicrous, someone buying something both useless and expensive, but this is a fantasy world. You can suspend your disbelief, at least for a little bit. But until we get 50 Speechcraft, we'll need to find some NPC that can afford more than a single potion. Tonilia, the Thieves Guild fence in the Ragged Flagon, carries 1,000 gold by default, and the Thieves Guild armor isn't terrible, so let's join the Thieves Guild. We help Brynjolf with his little scheme to put Madissy's ring in Branche's pocket, run through the Ratway under the city, using our feeble staff of sparks to kill the bandits along the way, and finally collect the debt money owed to the guild. Now, being an official member of the guild, we embark upon the tedious process of selling Tonilia a couple potions, resetting her stock, and selling her a few more. Interestingly, you can sell, quote-unquote, thousands of gold worth of items to a vendor that has no money left and still get Speechcraft XP. You lose out on the money, of course, but if all you're looking for is XP, it's an option. After spending a bit of quality time with Tonilia, we emerge from the Ragged Flagon with a bit over 14,000 gold. More than enough to buy not just a Staff of Frostbite from Feralda, but also several empty soul gems and a Greater Soul Gem. It's a filled Greater Soul Gem, but I don't think it'll be a problem. You see, there's more than one way to craft a staff in Skyrim. The Dragonborn DLC added Master Nelith and his Staff Enchanter, but before him, there was the Atronach Forge. With the correct ingredients, the Forge can create Atronach staves. But the Forge, I hear you say, is under the College of Winterhold. How will you get to it without joining the college, JBN? Ah, my friend, you must be unaware of how subjective gravity is in the world of Tamriel. First, we descend the cliffs outside of Winterhold. It's possible to jump off the bridge and land in the just deep enough water to avoid falling damage, but I never had much luck threading that needle. At the base of the stone structure holding up the college, you'll see this little bundle of stones that looks like an obstacle you would need to circumvent, but it's actually a red herring. You want to go north around the college pillar and get on top of this rock formation. It's not super obvious, but the cliffside here is ever so slightly pitched, allowing you to walk alongside it long enough to get on top of it. From here, you backtrack around the pillar where you find a small cave entrance. This is where you would normally exit the Midden Dark, and in Skyrim fashion, these dungeon exits are typically one way. But again, gravity is an ephemeral thing. It takes a bit of finagling, but you can sorta wiggle your way up the incline. And that's how you get into the college without joining the college. Well, the midden, at least. If you continue through the dungeon, you'll end up in the college. The Atronach Forge. There's a huge list of things you can make with this baby, including Daedric armor. But we're interested in staves. For a staff of Flame Atronach, we need fire salts, a broom, a piece of corundum ore, or an ingot, and a greater soul gem. That's why we've been swiping brooms. Drop the ingredients in the offering box, pull the lever, and nothing. They need to be empty soul gems, don't they? Damn it. We'll return to this. But since we're here, we ought to go up to the college and see what the wizards have for sale. Staff of Ice Spikes, Staff of Flames, Staff of Frostbite, Staff of Lightning Bolts, Staff of Reanimation. A nice variety. I bought a couple extras because swapping staves is faster than recharging. A Staff of Chain Lightning would be amazing, but I don't know what would trigger it to start appearing in shops. What I do know is our overall level affects what kinds of empty soul gems appear in shops. What level will make an empty greater soul gem appear? Not sure, but that just gives us more of a reason to power level alchemy and speech. It appears my home has been attacked by bandits. One thing you'll notice with staves is how awful they can be in close range combat. Unlike a spell coming from your hands, staff casted spells originate a bit further away from your body, so you're likely to cast a spell through an enemy if they get too close. Not a horribly challenging issue, but just another thing to add to the reasons why staves suck list. Castle Doctrine. Anyway, back to work. I gathered more materials to build the rest of the planters, and even fabricated our very own alchemy bench. Had to go all the way to Dawnstar to get the Quicksilver for this. But other than that, it was more of the same stuff. Now what I hope doesn't return in Test 6? The alchemy station. I want to make potions out in the field. I want to scrounge up bugs and fungi while I'm in a dungeon and turn it into meager health potions. I want to feel desperate, you know? They could do something like Oblivion's Frostcrag Spire, where doing alchemy near an alchemy station gives you a boost, but it shouldn't be required. Same with enchanting. Hell, make it a perk. Your expertise in weaving souls into equipment has revealed secret techniques. You no longer have to visit an enchanting bench to enchant items. Something like that. After about 20 minutes of reaping our crops, making potions, and then waiting 48 hours to do that over again, we hit level 70 alchemy, allowing us to take the Green Thumb perk. 2 ingredients are gathered from plants. But in retrospect, I don't think it actually works for the greenhouse or for the garden, so oh well. I really thought I could be patient enough to sell all these potions to Tanelia in 1,000 gold chunks, but after about 2 minutes of this, I figured we should just bite the bullet and sell her everything for nothing, at least until we get 50 Speechcraft. And that's 50 Speechcraft. We can now sell any item to any merchant, so we can go to any wizard that sells soul gems, buy up their entire stock, and sell our potions back to him. And in even better news, we're now level 14. Wizards, such as Farengar, have begun stocking empty greater soul gems. Fantastic. With these gems, we return to the Midden Dark, taking the same path we did earlier, and start playing around with the Atronach Forge. I foolishly thought I had all the ingredients needed to make one of each staff. 1 Flame Atronach, 1 Frost Atronach, and 1 Storm Atronach. I thought the recipes were identical, but with different salts for the different Atronachs. Fire, Frost, Void. But no, the required metal is different too. Flame needs corundum, Frost needs moonstone, and Storm needs orichalcum. Those materials aren't hard to acquire, but getting back here is a pain in the ass, so we're just gonna make some Flame Atronach staves. She's beautiful. Now that I've shown off the Atronach Forge, which I'm now realizing it is pronounced Atronach, but I'm so used to saying Atronach, whatever. It's time to check out a more practical staff creation method. To Solstheim, we're here to help Master Nelith. His assistant isn't dead yet, but will die quite soon, and it'll be our job to find him a replacement. The ash spawns on this island seem to be a bit resistant to fire damage. Ain't that bizarre? I'm sure Captain Veloth can handle himself. Oh, Heartstone deposits. We need these to craft staves. Depending on what kind of staff you're making, it'll require anywhere from 1 to 4 stones. The ash spawns around the island are actually the result of Heartstone magic. The Heartstone is consumed when the ash spawn is created, so they never drop them as loot, unfortunately. Farming stones would be much easier if they did. Heartstones didn't start appearing until after Red Mountain erupted about 200 years ago, and I like to think they're volcanic material that inherited a bit of the Heart of Lorkhan's power. Kind of like how radiation can contaminate nearby objects like clothes or flesh.
I don't recall inviting you into my tower. I do hope you make this worth my while.
Nelith is such a great character. We're not really going to interact with him a whole lot in this video, but I still want to talk about him a bit while we run some of his errands. I may have mentioned this before. So back in Morrowind, Nelith is an incredibly bitter old man. Even among the Telvanni, he had a reputation for being extra nasty. His mouth, the person who speaks for him at the Telvanni Council Hall, will request the player bring her 5 helpings of slowed soap. She uses it to create an ointment to soothe Nelith's aching joints. A viewer pointed out that slowed soap's first alchemical effect is drain personality. The lotion he was using in Morrowind may have been ruining his personality. Now that Vardenfell is all exploded and his old mouth, Arara Uvulas, is nowhere to be found, it's fair to assume that she's dead, and he's probably not using slowed soap lotion anymore. Maybe that's why he's more pleasant in Skyrim. He's still an asshole, don't get me wrong, an arrogant jerk, at best, but he's not bitter. He's more of an eccentric in Skyrim. Was that the intent? Probably not, but it's fun to speculate with this kind of stuff.
You won't feel a thing, but if you do, try not to scream too loudly. My ears are sensitive.
I'm a firm believer that the death of the author is the birth of the reader. If the interpretation of the reader doesn't matter, and all that does matter is the author's intent, then what the hell's the point of reading the thing in the first place? Eventually, Verona Nellis, Nelith's assistant, will go missing, and he sends us out to find her. And wouldn't you know it, she's dead not one click away from Tel Mithryn. You can't find good help these days. Uncovering her body triggers an ash spawn attack, which I'm not too interested in fending off, so instead we run away. Whoa! Carry on. Well, Master Nelith, Verona's dead.
Dead? Well, that's annoying.
He sends us to Raven Rock to find a replacement, and there's one Drovis Relvi in the Retching Netch who would be more than happy to work for a Telvanni wizard. Anything to get out of Raven Rock. For our efforts, Nelith gives us 500 gold and access to his staff enchanter. The unenchanted staves he sells cost a bit more than the monetary reward he gave us, but that's fine. We've got a better currency anyway. Potions. Oh, damn it, I need to know the spell to make the staff. Okay, let's go buy some spells. All I said earlier was that we can't cast the spells. That doesn't mean we can't learn them. Now this is the real problem I alluded to at the top of the video. Vendors only carry spell tomes that are within your skill range. For instance, Wall of Storms is an expert level destruction spell, and vendors won't carry it until you hit level 65 destruction. We can't train destruction without casting destruction spells, so shops are never going to carry anything better than apprentice level tomes. This is the case for all magic schools. I was hoping to craft a staff of Chain Lightning, but Chain Lightning is an adept level spell. We would need 40 destruction to find that tome on a vendor, and I suspect the same is true for a staff of Chain Lightning. Could we have bought training? Sure. If I had realized this 10 levels ago and bought 5 destruction levels every character level, then we'd be fine, but I didn't, so we're stuck. I think buying magic training wouldn't be in the spirit of the run anyway. So not only is this a staff only run, but it's no better than apprentice staves only. Ain't that a hoot? After buying several tomes from Farengar, we return to Tel Mithryn and create a staff of soul trapping, so we can actually fill our empty soul gems. I also made a staff of firebolts, and ironically, we're never going to use the staff maker again. Not only would collecting the heartstones be tedious, but all the other staves we could make, we could probably find on vendors. Oh well. Now that we're, 20 minutes into the video? I think it's time we actually get to the main quest. We've got a quiver full of staves and an unreasonable amount of healing potions. Probably overkill for Bleak Falls Barrow, especially since we have 300 points of health, but overkill is better than underkill. You know, I think the worst part about staves is something you wouldn't even realize unless you were actually using only staves. And who the hell would do that? What moron would do that? You can't use hotkeys to equip one in each hand. It defaults to your right hand, unlike spells, which kind of go right-left. Also, some staves are the same item, and others aren't, so they interact with the favorites menu weirdly. It's hard to explain the UI goofiness I'm dealing with. I didn't expect frustration to come from non-gameplay elements. The Draugr Lord wasn't too tough, he just took a while to kill. But that's to be expected since we're around level 20, and we're using spells equivalent to what a level 5 mage would be using. It's a battle of attrition, and we attrished better. I'll be taking that Dragonstone, thank you. Oh, look who it is. Yeah, anyway. We got a level while recharging our staves. One of the few perks that actually helps staves is Soul Squeezer. Soul Gems provide extra magicka for recharging. We'll take it, I guess. UESP says it treats all souls as having 250 larger size when used for recharging. Petty souls are worth 250 enchanting points, so I'm guessing the perk throws a free petty soul into the mix when topping up your staff juice. I don't like that pair of words. So with the main quest, the order of events is supposed to be go from Riverwood to Whiterun and tell the Jarl about the dragon attack in Helgen. We delayed that a bit, but the world progresses on our schedule, so Balgruuf is more than happy to wait around while a dragon slaughters his hold and burns down his people. This ain't Fallout 1. We got no strict time limits. So we finally tell Balgruuf about the Red Eyes Black Dragon attacking Helgen. He sends us over to Farengar to do him a favor, retrieving the Dragonstone from Bleak Falls Barrow. But we've already done that, triggering the next phase of Alduin's plan. Murmelnir is attacking a ruined watchtower out west. Why are they protecting a ruined watchtower? I don't understand. I know fire is technically the most powerful of the three elements because it leaves a damage over time effect on the target, but lightning is so much more wieldy. I don't know if it's exactly hit scan, but it feels like it is, and that's good enough. You don't have to lead your shots like you would with fireballs or frostspikes. Killing the dragon reveals we are Dovahkiin, Dragonborn, and we didn't even know it. The Greybeards yell from their mountaintop, and thanks sure we know NPCs who know what the hell that means. Otherwise, the story about the Dragonborn would end rather anticlimactically. I don't know, man, I killed a dragon, ate a dragon, and then I heard this weird noise come out of the sky. Not sure what it was, but I had a butterfly infestation back at my house, so I wasn't really in the right headspace to pursue that mystery. Roll credits. I think I prefer getting to Iverstead by going north, around the throat of the world, as opposed to going through the southern valley. It takes longer, but the sights are nicer. The Greybeards are at High Hrothgar, at the top of the 7,000 steps. You may have counted the steps at one point, and you may have gotten a different number, a number much smaller than 7,000. But here's the thing, the throat of the world is one of Mundus's towers. Much like the White Gold Tower in Cyrodiil, the Red Tower in Morrowind, the Adamantine Tower in the Iliac Bay, the Crystal Tower in Somerset, or the Brass Tower in... The throat of the world possesses strange, reality-altering properties. Nature isn't so much of an objective state of being, but rather a symptom of the Godhead's unconscious dream. A simplified explanation is that the mere act of counting the steps changes how many steps there actually are. Or scale theory. Skyrim is scaled down so it could be turned into a game. My headcanon explanation is more fun. You may have thought it a little overly precautious to craft so many healing potions, but when it's literally your only means of keeping yourself alive, you'd be smart to stock up. Our staves can't kill things quickly, and just about every enemy can close the gap in seconds. Chug that Estus. The troll is surprisingly easy to kill. Weak to fire, kinda slow, and rather run into a bunch of them than the saber cats, that's for sure. Upon arriving at High Hrothgar, we yell at some old men, they teach us how to yell even harder, and then they show us the first word of Whirlwind Sprint. A shout we'll need for the next task they set us upon. Getting the horn of Jurgen Windcaller. Now let me get this out of the way. Shouts ain't staves, that much is true. But some shouts are just mandatory. We aren't going to use them unless we have to. I already hear those keyboards clickety-clacking. I said no magic except for staves. Ah, well, shouts aren't magic. Sure, shouts can be blocked by wards, but lore-wise, shouts are different from magic. The world is made of discrete tones, and shouts tap into that tonal architecture and manipulate it. Magic, on the other hand, is power drawn from Aetherius. Think of it like this. Magic is the steam in the engine that pushes a boat up the river. Tonal manipulation is relocating the river. Ustengrav is a Nordic crypt, but it starts out with a few necromancers being so devious. Their summons are a bit frustrating, and their seemingly infinite magicka makes breaking down their wards a pain in the ass, but that's why we have all the shock staves. Burn away their magicka so they're forced to use melee. The rest of the dungeon is Draugr, which we can soul trap, so we don't have to be too worried about running out of staff juice. Damn it, I said it again. Shit. Upon reaching the end of the dungeon, we discover the horn of Jurgen Windcaller is missing, and instead on the pedestal sits a note bidding us to the Sleeping Giant Inn in Riverwood. So more plot happens. Delphine, one of the few remaining members of the Blades, knew we were going after the horn, so she swiped it first to get in contact with us. She could have just talked to a courier. He always manages to find us. He would walk into the middle of a dragon fight just to give us a letter. At least she's not holding the horn ransom, she just hands it over. To prove we're actually the Dragonborn, she wants to witness us killing and ultimately eating a dragon. Because of the Dragonstone we had fetched, she knows where we'll find our next dragon, Kynesgrove. I don't know if it's more DPS to charge both spells at the same time, or alternate between them, but alternating feels stronger. Very Dragon Ball Z.
It's to be a real fight, Dad. Good.
So you really are.
Delphine's convinced. Watched us slurp up that dragon soul like it's a plate of spaghetti. Or just the spaghetti. You don't eat the plate. You shouldn't eat plates. Now that she can trust us, because the Dragonborn would never be a villain, she lets us in on her suspicions. These dragon attacks do nothing but benefit the Thalmor, so maybe, just maybe, the Thalmor are behind the dragons returning. To learn more, we're to play Secret Agent, and infiltrate the Thalmor embassy, which will be holding a party when we, conveniently, decide to go to it. But the Greybeards are still waiting for the horn, so we drop that off first and learn the final word of Unrelenting Force. Da. Then they yell at us for a bit, but if you quick save and quick load, you can skip through all this dialogue and save like 15 seconds. Malborn will smuggle into the embassy any gear we think we need. I always just give him everything, because why not? Here's our invite, here's some booze, make a distraction, and through the back we go. Now it's crucial we get in, find the information we're looking for, and get out without raising any suspicions.
Come on!
God damn it. Alright, everyone dies. Is it overrated? From the Thalmor dossier on a man named Esbern, we learn that the Thalmor aren't behind the dragon attacks. They're as much in the dark as us. But while that mystery unfolds, they've made it a priority to find the very man this dossier was written about. Unfortunately, our cover was blown somehow, and a pair of Thalmor enforcers show up with Malborn in tow. I knew we couldn't trust him, and the turncoat died for it. I'm sure I read that situation correctly. Our next steps, Delphine tells us, is to find Esbern and bring him to Riverwood. He might be able to help figure out what's going on with this whole dragon thing. He's also a blade. So we're off to the Ratway Vaults, Esbern's ultimate hiding spot where the Thalmor would never be able to find him in a million years. Oh, cursed serendipity, the bane of all protagonists. The Thalmor are already here. There's something funny about a battle mage carrying a torch. Just ready a fire spell, idiot. Since our speechcraft is pretty high, we can actually just persuade Esbern to let us in without asking him about the 30th of Frostfall, as Delphine had mentioned. And they say Skyrim isn't an RPG. You can either succeed or succeed a different way. With Esbern providing covering fire, we escape the sewers and arrive in Riverwood, just in time to see the NPCs being weird with a dead cultist. Yeah, we killed one earlier, it's not important. After reconvening with Delphine, and waiting around while Esbern yaps about history, we head off to Skyhaven Temple, a long-abandoned Blades fortress up in the mountains of the Reach. It's a shame you never really get a good look at it from the outside, because it looks so much like Cloud Ruler Temple in Cyrodiil. Unless you actively search for it on the cliffside, you'd probably never notice. The Forsworn have taken up residence at the base of the temple, and when you arrive, a dragon is scripted to attack. But if you're careful, you can climb up and over the edge of the mountain and drop right into Karthspire, avoiding the melee altogether. We got some Forsworn inside, but not nearly as many as there are outside. Once Esbern finishes admiring the murals, he reveals that there must have been a dragon shout capable of defeating dragons. I can't believe it. Dragon shouts? In Skyrim? That's crazy. Before returning to High Hrothgar to interrogate the Greybeards, we returned to the pharmacology lab, brew up a bit of medicine, and traded to Farengar for several filled soul gems. I'm his plug. Arngeir doesn't want to teach us this mysterious shout, both because it goes against the Greybeards' philosophy of sitting on their asses doing nothing, but also because he doesn't know it. To learn this shout, we must speak with their master, Parthenax. He's at the top of the mountain, beyond the deadly gale force winds. The Greybeards teach us a shout to clear the path, and upwards we hike. My god, Parthenax is a dragon. Actually, Skyrim's dragons aren't dragons, they're wyverns because they have wings instead of arms. Real dragons have 2 arms, 2 legs, and 2 wings, real dragons. The dragons that really exist. Parthenax says there is a shout that can be used to defeat Alduin, but he doesn't know it. Dragonrend is a shout created by mortals specifically to be used against dragons. The shout's very nature requires a mortal mind to understand. Dragons, being timeless, immortal creatures, cannot comprehend any other state of being. Hearing the words of Dragonrend imprints upon them, at least temporarily, the sensations of mortality. The weight of the finite is crushing. They get woozy and need to sit down so they land. To learn Dragonrend, we need an Elder Scroll. Title drop. The mortals who defeated Alduin thousands of years ago used an Elder Scroll. They used it right here, atop the Throat of the World. If we were to bring an Elder Scroll back to the Throat of the World, back to the Time Wound, we may be able to peer back in history and learn the shout through a cosmic vision. But where do we find an Elder Scroll? Well, obviously, we should ask a mystical hermit, preferably one living inside a glacier, on the coast of the Sea of Ghosts. Bonus points if he's trying to crack open a box full of Dwemer secrets. That would be ideal. Where the hell are we going to find that? While we figure out where this mysterious mage might be, we return to the College of Winterhold, using the cliff scaling strategy, and prepare a new recipe for the Atronach Forge. Frost salts, a moonstone ingot, a greater soul gem, and a broom create a staff of Frost Atronach. We haven't gotten a ton of use out of the Flame Atronach, but I think it's just because she's not very durable. Frost Atronachs are a bit tankier, and they get all in their target's face since they exclusively use melee. They also look really cool. Okay, all the coyness aside, if we want to get an Elder Scroll, we need to speak with Septimus Cygnus in his glacial hideout not far from the college. He too needs information held within the Elder Scroll, and he knows where we can find one. The Tower of Mazark, accessible only from the subterranean city of Blackreach. He gives us a key to access Blackreach, and in exchange for this help, he would like us to use the Dwemer scroll reading machine to fill his Dwemer storage cube with Dwemer data. Sure, man. Sure. I'll definitely bring this back. There are several ways to get down into Blackreach. I believe 4 different Dwemer ruins terminate within the caverns, but I always go to Alftand because I'm just used to it, and it's where the quest marker tells me to go. It's here that we'll test what Staves are truly capable of. Dwemer spheres and Falmer are brutal, but I'm hopeful. Staves having no beneficial perks does mean they're weaker, but it also means we were able to allocate most of our perk points to improving our potions and increasing our armor rating. Paired with how much health we have, even if we can't kill things super fast, nothing can really kill us super fast either. As I said earlier, it all comes down to persistence. A battle of attrition. We also don't have to be terribly conservative with staff charges. Not only are Falmer souls trappable, because RK hates them, but the Dwemer automatons frequently drop filled soul gems, many of which are big enough to top up the staff we just used. Ooh, she has a staff. I believe the Falmer can sometimes spawn with staves of chain lightning, and there's nothing I love more than a hit-scan weapon that you don't really have to aim. Damn it. Even though they aren't doing a ton of damage, the Falmer hand pressed into my face really pisses me off. Wow, Frosty is such a dick, just no-selling those sparks. So how are our staves gonna fare against a Dwarven Centurion? Pretty well, it seems. We slot one of the devices Septimus gave us into this thingy, and the floor opens up, as one would expect, of course. The 2 adventurers arguing with each other can just keep on keeping on. Blackreach. This sphere is almost never worth fighting. It must be like twice the level of every other sphere we've encountered so far. Maybe it's a level scaling thing? Alftand could be an easier dungeon than Blackreach, so there's a jump in difficulty between the two? I don't know. Knowing exactly where to go does make Blackreach much easier. You don't have to fight much of anything if you beeline straight for the Mazark elevator. And here it is, the Elder Scroll Readinator. Drop in the cube, push a few buttons, and bing bang boom. Down drops the crystalline cradle containing that cosmic qualia we crave. I don't think qualia is the right word, but it sounds esoteric and alliteration. Scroll in hand, we return to the throat of the world and flashbang ourselves. I dimmed it for y'all, don't worry. And now we sit through a goofy cutscene where a few ancient Nord heroes, although successful in grounding Alduin with the Dragon Wrench out, which we immediately understand, are unable to defeat Alduin. Plan B is banishing him with the Elder Scroll, inadvertently sending him forward in time, leaving him for future generations to deal with. Why don't we just do that again? Keep kicking that can down the road. When has that ever caused more problems than it solved? You know, I did find a mod that skips over this whole cutscene. You read the scroll, the game throws up a few info boxes, and you learn the shout. I only downloaded this mod because the next quest, Seasons Unending, where you negotiate a truce between the Stormcloaks and the Empire, glitched out, and Arngeir wouldn't get the meeting started. My earliest save was before reading the scroll, and I didn't feel like sitting through Shakespeare's finest, hamming it up on the mountaintop. Again. Mod or no, once the cutscene finishes, Alduin appears, and we fight him like we would any other dragon. Dragon rend him out of the sky, deal as much damage to him as possible, and then he takes off again. Rinse and repeat until he gets below half health, at which point he'll no longer fly away, making him much easier to burn down. A less obvious benefit of using shock magic is that because it drains magicka, it actually limits a dragon's ability to shout. Unlike our shouts, their shouts cost magicka, so if they have no magicka, they can only use melee attacks. But like most NPCs, their magicka regenerates super fast, and their quote-unquote spells are pretty cheap. Once we beat on Alduin enough, he flies away. But to where? A mystery to be sure. Well, Dragon's Reach was designed to trap a dragon, so maybe if we trapped one, we could interrogate it and find out where Alduin went. But before Balgrove will let us use Dragon's Reach for that purpose, he wants us to guarantee Whiterun's safety. A truce must be formed, ending the civil war, at least for a little while. Honestly, the whole truce meeting is pretty uneventful. Some land changes hands, comments both passive-aggressive and regular-aggressive are made, and the Blades manage to feel important because all two of them are here. After the meeting, Esbern says he's been studying the many names of the dragons slain by the Blades. Cross-referencing those names with the dragon burial map Delphine had made, he was able to determine the name of one of the newly raised dragons. Odahviing. We don't actually have to fight the dragon, only lure it into the hold. As long as we're careful, there shouldn't be any casualties. He didn't have a name. With a single dragon rend and a bit of backpedaling, Odahviing is ensnared in... what?
Got something I'm supposed to deliver. Your hands only.
Dude, we're a bit... Who even let you in here?
A letter. Not sure who from. Looks like that's it. Got to go.
I wish Delphine were here to see this. Odahviing is impressed by our Thu'um, and by the intricate woodwork of his bindings. It's crafted from the wood of the Eldergleam tree. As such, it exerts an anti-tonal force field, rendering Odahviing's Thu'um powerless. I made that up. I don't know why Odahviing can't just shout us into oblivion. Maybe he's just embarrassed. To earn his freedom, the trapped lizard tells us that Alduin fled to Sovngarde, where he can recuperate by eating all those tasty Nord souls. There exists a portal to Sovngarde within the ancient Nordic ruins of Skuldafn, but the place is inaccessible to those without the power of flight. Odahviing offers to take us there, if we free him first, of course. He says we can trust him, and we have no reason to doubt that. It's one thing to kill a red shirt, it's another thing altogether to be a big fat liar. To Skuldafn. Draugr and Dragons, everyone's favorite knockoff TTRPG. We would be a fool to fight all these enemies. Instead, we book it through the ruins and enter Skuldafn Temple, where dragons dare not tread, because the door is much too small. Since we're coming up on the final battle, I feel it's prudent to fill all the empty soul gems we've got left, rather than just zerging past all the Draugr. So we'll take our time in the temple, and soul trap everything we can. I don't expect Alduin to require that much staff juice, but running out mid-fight would be devastating. The dragon priest at the end of this dungeon, Nakreen, is holding open the portal to Sovngarde, and if you don't run into the portal fast enough, he removes his staff from the staff hole and seals the portal shut. To reopen it, you must kill him and take his staff. It's a pretty good staff. It can cast Wall of Storms. We want that staff. He keeps using wards, and the dragons keep blinding me with fire, and everyone's yelling at me. Got him. Dragon Priest Staff. Sprayed on the ground, it creates a wall of lightning that does 50 points of shock damage per second. We'll only be able to use it for the final fight. But hey, better late than never, right? Open the portal. Excellent. And take the staff? I can't take the staff. Okay, so that whole ordeal was pointless. Damn it all. Whatever, through the door. Sun, shield brother of Shor, the Nordic interpretation of Lorcan, guards the whalebone bridge into the Hall of Valor. We prove ourselves in one-on-one combat. Frosty doesn't ease with me. And he lets us pass. Oh god, it's the day players.
At long last, Alduin's doom is now ours to seal.
And they're the only ones who can help us. Ugh. The four of us head back across the whalebones and yell at the clouds until Alduin reveals himself. Much in the way that dragons cannot understand mortality, they also can't count to 4. So 3 Lok Vakors is enough to break Alduin's mist-summoning spirit. The World Eater arrives. The final fight begins. Clear skies would be awesome right now. I know I said shouts aren't magic, but anything more than Dragon Rend feels like cheating. You notice how his soul spaghetti goes up into the sky, and how we don't eat it? It's because the Dragonborn wasn't sent to stop the end of the world. We weren't even sent to kill Alduin. The last Dragonborn was sent to kick Alduin's ass back to Aetherius so Akatosh can set him straight. Alduin is supposed to eat the world, readying it for a reset, but he hasn't been doing that. He's been ruling, not eating. The last Dragonborn didn't save the world from its end. The last Dragonborn guaranteed its end. That's Skyrim with Staves. Not terrible, but also not good. I wouldn't recommend it. The only scenario I can think of where a staff is really effective is if you're a non-magic character and want to slow down a bandit chief or drain a mage's magicka. Use a frost or shock staff. Otherwise, just be a mage. Buy magica potions. You'll be good.